going so far down.
It is hump day. We got something controversial to talk about. Maren's contracting. It's gonna be uncomfortable, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, it all depends on lots of things.
Welcome, 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 y'all. Welcome to you. Welcome to you. There's nobody currently viewing this, but soon there will be. You probably want to tune in as we're talking about our topic of this month has been allyship and advocacy. And today's topic is, should white facilitators be paid? White DEI facilitators. So, yep, we're going there. And I think it's important that we do, because I know that there's a lot of confusion and differing opinions out there about this. And that's okay. Not everybody has to agree with us and the stance that we have at Building Bridges, which is to pay our white facilitators when they do DEI work, such as Maren. But Maren's had her own journey around that. So I definitely want to hear from you, Maren, on how you've even come to a place of accepting pay. And I have some thoughts too, but yeah. Also, I'm sitting. Look, people, I'm so tired I can't even stand today.
I'm sitting too. It feels tiring. Today feels tiring.
Should we do a breath or something?
Yeah, I mean, can we not? I'm just gonna jump in about money.
No, like the
most uncomfortable topic.
The things that I do, the things that I do with Maren, like I just throw her in the ringer, y'all. You don't even know. She's like, hey.
Can't you acknowledge that?
Talk about this hard thing. Go. Yeah, that's right. And she's like all red and nervous, but she does it because she's a real one.
Yeah. Okay, Jenny, put me in.
Put me in, coach.
I'm not ready, but I'm doing it anyway. I mean, I'm sort of ready. Yeah, I think a little check-in, a little breath might be good. That was my voice.
Let's do it.
I'm all about the humming and the dancing and like the moving. I don't know. We do like singing feels good. We just sang a little bit. Can we do a little like drum roll?
Okay, does that help? That makes me think of the song Mbara, 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 Mbara.
Can we do our TikTok?
Shake, just shake. Oh, yes, we're old and we watch TikToks. Well, we're kind of old. But there is this one where it's the little baby, and it's funny. So I guess we didn't do a breath, but that's okay.
Oh, we can do. Yeah, let's take a deep breath too.
Okay.
Let's do the one where it's like breath in your belly, breath in your chest, and then let it out.
Yeah, and if you're watching, when was the last time you took a deep breath today?
That's a good question.
How about you join us? Okay.
Breath into your belly, breath into your chest, and out. Both together. We're gonna do it again. Breath into your belly, breath into your chest, and out together. One more. Breath into your belly, chest, out together.
Good stuff.
It helps. We took a lot of breaths in the white affinity space yesterday.
In the groundwork session?
Yep.
If you're watching this and you're like, what's a groundwork session? It is a new online training that we have unrolled And I don't know why I keep saying unrolled. Is that the right word? Whatever, you get what I mean. It is focused on laying the groundwork of DEI, addressing privilege and oppression through the lens of racial equity. It happens in race-based affinity groups. So Maren and Megan and other white facilitators will be leading the white individual groundwork session. And myself and another BIPOC facilitator will be leading the BIPOC session. The July 16th one is still open for BIPOC. There's like a couple of spots left, so you can still grab yours if you want to.
Into what we if you weren't here with us last week, we were chatting about why affinity spaces, and kind of the reasoning and how we got to that. If you're curious, and then today's kind of stem on that a little bit, but go a lot deeper, I think.
Yep. So yeah, today we're just going in. Speaking of groundworks and the fact that Maren and another white facilitator are leading these groups of white individuals, I thought it'd be interesting to dialogue together and invite you all, whoever is watching. You can comment what your perspective is. Should white individuals facilitating DEI be paid? You can disagree with us. We can have a discussion, but we're going to share a little bit of how we landed on the stance that we're at now, which is that we are paying our white facilitators to lead these groundwork sessions.
And you've been seeing stuff on social media. I've been seeing stuff on social media. And just going back, tying into what we've been talking about all month, the theme has been allyship and advocacy and kind of how we are navigating it with the identities that we hold. And the trying to kind of process and ground and find, I've been trying to ground and process and find my own, like, what is my new place in the movement, in being a white person who wants to be anti-racist.
I'm eating.
And where I'm hearing from a lot of white folks that it's real confusing out here of like what to do, how do I do this? And there's some opinions on both sides of what that looks like and how white folks specifically should be, or non-Black folks should be doing something or being a part of it. So that's where it's all coming from.
Yeah, and I literally just threw this topic at Maren like 5 minutes ago. That's typically how we talk and converse, but it's cool now because now we can share it publicly. But my interest was sparked because I saw this Instagram post by a person of color, and they were saying how they don't think white facilitators of DEI should be paid, and any DEI facilitation work should go to Black folks specifically. And I'm definitely like thinking through that as a non-Black woman of color. I'm thinking through what that all means. And then, so I started asking Maren what she thought and how she feels receiving money as a white facilitator doing DEI work.
And I guess I started sharing that that's been a parallel thing for me to look at and heal and be in reflection around as a white person, but also as a white person who's, I forget the term, but I'm lower class at this point than when I grew up, and I've experienced anti-racist work in various camps, courageous conversations about race. When I came to Colorado and jumped into some of the surge groups, I work with a coach right now who is a white person and has an opinion and approaches it differently. And I think I've wavered back and forth, and it has, receiving money to be a facilitator in this, is something that I, for a long time, didn't think I deserved. I mean, money issues are a thing for me in general, but if, you know, trying to wrestle with, if this feels like something that I can be of service to and for, what is the line there for my emotional labor, for my ability to share in my mistakes and share in ways that I can say, yeah, I've done that too, or I'm noticing this, and I once thought this, and now I think that. There are folks of color, Black women specifically, who are saying that that is a form of white supremacy, that white folks participating and getting paid in diversity, equity, inclusion work, period, is that. And that makes me feel uncomfortable. That makes me some days not want to do it. But I feel like I've cycled through a lot where I feel like I'm in relationship with you, I'm in relationship with other women of color, where that has been an ask and a directive. And so I think I'm always bracing for the feedback at some point that this is being seen and deemed as problematic to someone. And I know it is. And yet I know, I mean, the shitty part and the both and of this is some white folks need to hear it from a white person to believe it, to experience it, in order to open the door to go in deeper. And so I don't know, I think we've talked about too, how can all of these things be existing at the same time? Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna keep rambling if I don't stop there.
I was gonna stop
that
you.
Was a lot.
I was gonna pause you. I was gonna be okay, you don't have to explain all of it.
Yep.
But thank you for everything you shared. And it makes me think of the analogy that I always go back to that we just talked about. I want to share it with you all. And it's it's the analogy of what I've tried to help white facilitators understand when they're leading these white groups. The one way that I've helped white women, such as Maren and Megan, is giving them the analogy of, imagine if men got together and they were going to do a whole day training on toxic masculinity and feminism. First of all, how do you feel about that? And then there was like reactions like, what? That seems really weird. That seems like there was this consensus. I would not trust them. I would not trust them to teach other men on this. And then the more we got into it, it was like, well, maybe if they led, the only thing they could teach is by leading from their own mistakes and getting other men to hear them. Because in the same degree, men are much more likely to hear and believe things from other men, which fucking sucks, but it's the way it is. So the way I use that analogy, because that's how it feels sometimes for me as a woman of color, to trust my friend Maren and my co-facilitators who are white in leading these groups of white folks. And it feels like the big ask here is that no matter what, you lead from your own mistakes and you let that be your expertise, and that alone.
Yeah.
Because the rest is something you've learned from BIPOC.
Yeah, and I think there's an element to that, right? And we've talked about that, like what is co-opting and speaking from what I've learned from you or from other experiences and talking for folks of color versus what I was taught specifically, and what I really appreciate having the groundwork in, why I'm so passionate about Courageous Conversations about Race Protocol, is the constant reminder and that it using I statements and trying to always come from, this is the experience I'm having in the body, in the skin that I'm in. And that is all I can ever offer, is my now understanding of the conditioning that I am affected by, and how I've tried to navigate unlearning it. And there's always a posture too, like humility of, I'm never going to have it all learned. And so And the only way I would feel comfortable for men to be doing that is if I knew the men and if I had an understanding of their analysis, and like there's that bit of relationship piece that we've talked about too, of like that feels important.
It feels like too, like, wouldn't you want to test them on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Like, dude, that woman's skirt is short. What do you think about that? Yeah. And then if they're like, wow, she's asking for it, or even something really subtle, like it's a little too short, you'd be like, dude, Jeremy, we talked about this. Body shaming is not a cool thing. And not that I do that all the time in terms of like testing you, but there have been moments when I'm like, I'm really, really listening intently to what my white facilitators, how they're dealing with daily life.
Yep.
And looking for teaching opportunities, because I would want those to be apparent and shared. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, the way that we are quote unquote structured, or the way that we work in building bridges, I think, I don't know. And I think the relationship that you and I have been able to get to is also, if you felt like there was a space that you wanted to be in and that you needed me to co-facilitate, or you wanted me to be out of it, then I wholeheartedly would be doing that.
Yeah. And it's like, that's the case for facilitation and also meetings.
Yeah.
Which are so interesting, because in our working relationship, I'm the program manager of Shift, Maren's the program coordinator, and I lead the calls in the client process, and Maren takes notes. And I think that sometimes that's surprising to people, because the assumption, internalized racism, remember, maybe not conscious, subconscious, is that Maren's most likely going to be the one leading, because most EDs of nonprofits in Denver look like Maren.
Yep. And
so, that's been something interesting to navigate. And one way that I feel like we've used the system is okay, so Maren's here. Now are you ready to listen to me? And it sucks. It really does suck. And in a way, I see how it would be, some could interpret that as upholding white supremacy, because we're like giving in. But to me, I'm just like, the system's been rigged against me since I was born, so I'm gonna rig it back. Like, it's it's the only way sometimes to feel like I can have a mic. And then once I get the mic, now it's like, look at our clients that really, really trust me now, and they know that I am an expert in this, and they know that I know what I'm doing. It just took a while to build that.
Yep.
It sucks.
Yeah. And I think there's just always this nuance and this both and like what you said too, like, how are we being strategic and intentional of why and what we're doing? And I feel like we're just always in reflection around that, and willing to learn and to readjust as well.
I feel like there was something else I was going to say about the allyship piece. Oh, so one thing that I feel like is important to name is a lot of why I've made the direct ask to Maren to facilitate white spaces is because I am tired, like I'm exhausted. And I'm wondering if other DEI facilitators who identify as BIPOC could chime in about this, or add your comments at some point, because from my perspective, the amount of white guilt, white tears, white shame that I've had to hold for people over the years, it got to a point, especially last year, where I was like, no, I cannot hold all of it all the time. And I will go in willingly with you, and I will ask you to sometimes hold it and call people out and do the thing, because I've been trained since birth to do it. to comfort white folks. And so I have to do a conscious unlearning of that and challenge myself daily not to coddle. Someone just clapped. Bianca, can you chime in? What are you thinking? And I'm just like, I don't want to hear another white lady cry about her adopted Black son.
Yeah.
Like, how's that helping the conversation? How's it helping the conversation that you realize your microaggression from 3 minutes ago? I was going to say 5 years ago, but mostly it's 3 minutes ago. And you're like, well, I don't, and then you take up all the space.
Yeah.
I just need white folks to hold each other and like comfort each other when you cry. Cause it's not helping a multiracial group. It's not.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, and I think of my journey as a white person in understanding race. It has been in multiple forms and in different ways. It has been helpful for me to hear other white folks process their own racism and how they have come to their own understanding around it. And I also know that I need to be listening to multiple perspectives, because the predictable pattern is that I don't have folks of color in my life, and therefore don't know what it's like to experience police or to experience microaggressions. And so it's also important that I am accessing that and seeking that out. If it's been the case that I haven't had that, like thinking about diversifying a Facebook feed or the books or the podcasts that you read. It's not that you can't listen to white folks. It's how are you aware of whiteness in general in your own context, and how folks, specifically white folks, are talking about it. I don't know. I think, again, there's places and spaces for all of this to happen. And if this is lifelong work for me as a white person, isn't there going to be ample opportunity for me to utilize a lot of different resources and be in communication and community with lots of different folks?
Yeah. And I think like one thing that we're definitely challenging white folks to lean into, especially at our Uprooted training that's focused on white folks coming together to uproot white supremacy, is this idea of you don't have to act as an individual anymore. You don't have to own and internalize that you are alone on this journey and you're a lone wolf because of rugged individualism. And that's key to keeping white supremacy alive. The more that they isolate you, Maren, the more you stay scared and you stay fighting for power. And so I feel like, a big part of this work is bringing white folks together, being like, hey, remember, y'all have something in common, and that is European roots. And it's also white supremacy because of that. So like, how do you find a collectivism in that, so you don't feel as alone to do this scary work? It's not even quotes. It is scary work. And help each other out. Because you, Maren, have probably more empathy in handling white fragility because you have experienced it yourself. So my hope is that you would be able to bring people together and be like, hey, I know, I fucked up too last week, and let's do this together. Hey.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if folks know that there has been this ask over time. I mean, Reesma Menikin is saying it right now too, like, white folks, we need to create a new culture, like, and to be in community, just what you were saying. I mean, Malcolm X and Toni Morrison are saying the same, have said the same thing that you said, Jenny, like, white folks, this is your mess, like, leave me out of it, go take care of it. So how can that exist? And then, but then there's that added layer, right, of there are folks out here saying that white folks should be doing it for free. And that's where it's gotten sticky for me as well. It's like, this feels like a place that I can be of service. And then what is that reciprocity, and what does that look like? And it doesn't necessarily mean that I mean, right now I'm a facilitator with Building Bridges getting paid, but if now that I'm looking in some of the offerings that I might do through my own Love Bubbles Heal and my own like Reiki work and coaching is, how can I reallocate funds? Where and when? Like, I've had to work through, like, if I am able to make money in my life with my anti-racist lens that I have, wouldn't I be able to be a good money manager and be in community and relationship with folks in order to allocate and give resources and use the power and the privilege that I have in a way that is useful.
Yeah, reparation station.
Yep.
And that's like, yeah, that's like, I think that's a big part of this. And maybe it's also this other elephant in the room of a distrust of white folks, that they will distribute funds well, that you will distribute funds effectively, fairly, equitably because of history. You know?
I think that's right. The distrust is so fucking real, right?
It's like history of like Christopher Columbus all the way down to like yesterday and today.
Yeah, white folks have said they would do something.
Because it just keeps changing, like racism and white supremacy and inequities in combination with race. It just keeps shifting and changing, but it's still there. And so I think there is this feeling of like, yeah, I know I told Nate at Kite and Dart the other day, BIPOC, we're fucking like, we've been trained, many of us, I'll say, to be excellent distributors of funds, excellent wealth distributors, because we've had to learn to share resources since the conception of this country. So like, being on this land as a non-white person, you better know how to share what you got, make networks, and split a dollar, because you may not, the next day you may not have a dollar or a job or whatever the thing is. So hopefully you have a community and collective that could back you up.
White folks are just putting their piles of money
just in case, which connects to scarcity, right? And scarcity mindset.
Yep.
So let's talk about the energy level of this, because you and I both, we do this DEI stuff, we do this anti-racism work, and then we're also pretty spiritual people, I would say, that really talk a lot about energy. You're a Reiki practitioner, and I'm wondering, like, what is that? Where does energy come into play in terms of you facilitating DEI?
In terms of like how that affects me, or like the exchange of that?
The exchange of energy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, part of why I was drawn to come to Colorado, and specifically in Lafayette, where I'm at, I was just talking to another white woman who I met when I first moved here, and I was still very in my angry anti-racism white person, where I'm just, why can't everybody be talking about it? Why doesn't everyone get it? Y'all are stupid, and like separating myself from white folks. And in the last, I'm almost done with my 3rd year here in Colorado, and the energy work that I've done in those 3 years has helped me heal, and also helped me, and something that we just do as a posture in building bridges, like the thought of neutrality. We've done an episode here on this about that too, of I, as a white person, have just had some more time in this to build my muscles, to know how to calm my nervous system a little more, to be able to notice the patterns that happen in my body in order to show up and hold space for white folks who were me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, before I knew. And you know, that was a great like pushback that you gave me a couple of weeks too around that, of especially when around George Floyd and everything that was happening in Minneapolis. When it first was happening, I was feeling very overwhelmed, and even someone in our groundwork yesterday was asking, you know, like, I have anxiety, like there's this very real body thing that exists in me. And I think as white folks, there's want to call to always be curious about that. Like, is it that I'm uncomfortable talking about it, or is it that I just need to take a break? Like, when being strategic of when I take my critical race lens off, and if it's on purpose or if it's because I just want to opt out. But yeah, I think what we've learned, why we've created what we've created in terms of groundwork and uprooted to get folks into rooted, is because we're seeing the very real energetic, predictable fragility and guilt in white folks that needs to be addressed, that needs to be held in a certain way in order to get to a new level, in order to bring folks in an interracial scenario to actually have a conversation. Because if we do that too soon, energetically, that's harmful in many ways, and not useful for a movement forward.
Yeah, and I would say on another vein of the energy conversation is what I see as the energetic exchange that happens when I watch you, when I'm around you facilitating. And when I'm not around you, I know it's still happening. You are exerting a lot of energy to be able to have these conversations. You're straight up in front of a group of 25, 40 sometimes, being like, hey, this is how internalized racism has showed up in my life. This is a belief I still wrestle with. And it's really, really intense and vulnerable. And sometimes we leave those moments and we have to kind of like take a deep breath together and look out for each other and cry.
Yeah.
And I know how hard it is. And so I don't feel pity for you because I'm like, welcome to the club. Thank you. We need you. And also I don't feel right taking that energy exchange without giving something back. And I think that's why I've been so adamant about bringing you on staff for a while, is because I know how willing you are to put yourself on the line. And I feel like that can only continue to happen if you're adequately compensated. And in this case, it is money.
Yeah.
But then I also want to go back in time and let you all in on just kind of the ringer that we put white folks through all the time. And that is, it's kind of like you kind of have to prove yourself to really earn your keep at building bridges. And that involves a lot of sacrifice. And that's not just for white folks, that's for BIPOC people too, because I know I had to earn my keep. And I know other facilitators on our bench are having to do that now. And what that looks like is some of our facilitators come through the youth program. That doesn't pay much. That's a one-time summer stipend. And then like with Maren's year, there were these opportunities for her to come back and join a youth retreat and come to a different training. And Maren, you did a lot of those for free. And it's not just you, it's people like Ellie and people like Maggie who've been willing to do things and be present and also pay for trainings to continue their development. And that all to me is what I'm watching behind the scenes. I'm like, how dedicated are you actually to this? And I think that's what, as BIPOC facilitators, is we got to be wise about who we're bringing in, because some people will be in it for the money, because this can become a cash cow. That's how much people need DEI work. And that's not what we're about at Building Bridges. We're not about getting rich. We're about getting people educated.
True transformation.
Yeah. Getting people transformed.
And I think that's the other thing too, right? Like there's even there's belief around what diversity, equity, inclusion, identity, work, and trainings look like. And it can look differently from different folks as well. Like it can be a very teachy moment. It can be from a keynote, but we really do facilitate dialogue. And I guess part of my journey into this, as well as a teacher, moving into restorative practices and facilitating circles and that, and like really feeling like there are diversity, equity, inclusion, facilitating, there's still these really emotional, laborious positions that people are not financially or energetically giving the time of day or like giving the accolade that they deserve. Like that, I've always felt like folks feel like there's so many folks who feel like they can hold a meeting, and really like it like to hold a group is harder than I think most folks give it credit for. So there's that element to like what our posture is, and yeah, to be able for us all to just be really honest and raw and vulnerable in modeling, and that's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
111.
I saw that too. I just think do we pay white facilitators to facilitate DEI? Yes, at Building Bridges we do, for the long game. Like I need you in this for the long game, and I don't know how long you would be able to stay if you had to volunteer all the time, this really hard, laborious stuff. And yeah, at this point, I feel really confident in that stance. I feel secure in it. I feel like that's how I want to continue to run business and community partnerships in the future. And I'm okay with reading these Instagram posts and hearing from other people, many that I greatly appreciate and respect, many Black women. I'm okay hearing a different opinion about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm open to changing my perspective. Like, I don't think
that will change for us at some point.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I feel like we've talked about too, like where intersectionality is at play at one point, and also for us as business owners and what we envision we can do down the road, whether we're building bridges or not, like what is the greater good that we can do, and how can we get ourselves in a position in order to relinquish more or to defer to other folks in a bigger way.
Yeah. And it's like this money conversation never ends, because it could go so many different ways. Like we could spend another whole topic talking about my experience with BIPOC folks in their own liberation and my own liberation around money. Mm-hmm. Because like statistically, Latinas in the US get paid the least. And I think that's for a lot of different reasons, but I have internalized a lot of reasons why I shouldn't get paid a certain amount. And the past 3 years have really been about me challenging that and advocating for myself and asking for a raise and being denied in certain places and being approved in certain places. And now I can just see more and more like, why did I think I had this mindset that I can't be greedy and I have to really accept what I get. I should be glad that I got any job in the first place, even if it is $13 an hour. And now I'm like, hell no. Like this is the more that I've leaned into my own self-worth and understand the goal that I have and my specific skills, I'm like, no, I can't undervalue this. This is going to help you to invest more money. Then you will take it seriously and take me seriously.
Right.
So that's been part of it too.
For sure. Yeah. And as you were speaking, I'm spiraling in my head a little bit too. Like, but there is certain contexts where white folks shouldn't be getting paid, and oh shit, should I be? You know, it's just like we started talking before this too, like as a white person, there's just that loop is going to exist no matter what. And again, and I think part of it is understanding where you're at in your journey. Like if you're newly to this and you're going to be in a group and you're asking to get, you know, like there's certain context and nuance to all of this. And also it's helpful for us to continue to just chat and talk about this, because it is a very real thing and it is a major critique and directive that is out there that can be confusing.
Totally. Yep. It's 1:15 already.
Wow.
Okay, y'all, that is our time. Checkout question for the day. Let's see. Do you have a good one? You asked the dessert one last week and that was so cute.
I was gonna say, I had it last.
Okay, I'll think of one. Creative one. What song are you left feeling like after this conversation?
Ooh. Song am I feeling left?
And if you're watching, feel free to comment. We always love your input. What song are you left feeling like after this conversation? I don't know why I want to say I can't feel my face. But I kind of feel that way. Like I've been detached from my body and just like talking through these things, and now I'm like, whoa, what did I just say? What did we just share?
Yes, that's like, I don't know if I know a song, but it's like an EMD or EDM. My dyslexia. Like song where I just like, there's no words, but I just want to be in the back corner just dancing.
So what's going on in Maren's head song-wise is like
I need to numb out to the bass.
Makes sense.
I'm real hot right now.
Okay, y'all, we're gonna let Maren cool off and take care of herself, and we'll see you next week, which is gonna be July. We're gonna do, is it gonna be July?
Yeah, July 1st is next Wednesday.
Yeah, so we have a fun new theme of the month. We're going to be bringing guests in. So get ready to have Maren and Jenny time with some new person.
It'll be a surprise. A really fun surprise.
Okay, goodbye.